You listen to 247 Real Talk. Welcome to my podcast once again. I'm your host, Julian Paris. It was a pleasure to be here with you for another week. I hope you had a great week last week since we last spoke. It is recording this on Thursday, April 27th. It's a bit after 9, looks like 9:30 p.m. And this week we're going to talk a bit about the media, journalism, the media, and its responsibilities, and when they lose or it loses its independence as a body. So sit back, relax, grab whatever you need to, and as usual, I'll be right back. So welcome back to the 247 Real Talk podcast. Again, it's my pleasure to be here with you. This week is kind of unusual in the sense that I'm working with a brand new piece of equipment, a brand new mixing board for podcasting. It's not yet on the market. It will be on the market, I think, around May 18th. And so I can't tell you the name. I can't tell you anything about it. But, be sure to give me your usual feedback and let me know if in this episode I sound any different. And if I do, please forgive me. It'll take a little time as I get used to this new board and I tweak it so that it gives me what I need. Very capable, it seems like, but I have to learn the equipment. So anyway, let's get started. We're talking about media, the need for independence, and I guess in our time today, the lack of independence. And this concept this conversation has to do with what happened in the past week. As you all know, the last election, President Trump claimed voter fraud, rigging. And he and his attorney specifically honed in on Dominion voting systems because it was their machines, their equipment. And Dominion took exception to that and has a plethora of people, a whole long list of people it has sued, including his attorneys, including news stations, including several individuals. And I think it was this past week, within the last 7 days, I believe, the trial began, or the first day of the lawsuit trial started, and Fox News and Dominion settled out of court. Dominion was initially asking for $1.6 billion, and Fox News settled for $787 million, just about. And I think that the immediate termination of Tucker Carlson had to do with what they probably viewed as a $787 million mistake. Even in my small home studio, I'm always tweaking equipment. I'm always testing sound. And so probably most of the time, if you come in here, there's something recording, either audio or video. Once I'm in and the studio is up, the equipment is on. And apparently, this is par for the course for bigger studios as well, as they continue to make sure that everything sounds right and looks right. So there were apparently many Fox executives and Tucker Carlson himself who were recorded or allegedly heard offline, saying, expressing their doubts about this theory that Dominion voting systems had a problem and that the election was rigged or was a fraud. I think the fact that they're willing to settle for $787 million pretty much says that they recognize that not only was it a huge, not only were they wrong, but they had a huge responsibility in this. So think about it. You have certain newscasters that have massive platforms, and news media's responsibility is to bring the news, the real news, the truth, as they know it at least. And this is a prime example of what has happened, right? They have turned media from giving the public an impartial, independent perspective of truth, or at least their truth. They've turned that into, well, whatever the political ideology of that, of the ownership of that body is, of that station, of that news entity. They tend to employ people with the same ideology, and then they twist and they broadcast news that they know is false, because they know that there are millions and millions of people out there who will not think for themselves. Millions and millions of people out there, and forgive me if you feel insulted by that, but that's not my intention to insult. My intention is for you to understand the truth. If you are someone who believed that the election was rigged, and I've spoken to several people who have told me to my face they believe that, and you probably, many of these people are, big supporters of shows like, with Tucker Carlson. And now there's an admission that through the recordings and everything else, that in fact these same people had their doubts, but they went ahead anyway, and they broadcast this theory, they broadcast this lie, knowing that when you have so many supporters who believe in you, who think that what you're broadcasting as part of the media is the truth, then they believe it. Right? They never questioned how it happened. They never questioned that, well, how do you, I think the election difference was somewhere between 5 and 8 million people. I'm not sure the exact number, but how do you rig that many votes? And no one know about it but you. And why don't you look at the other reasons why the election was won or lost, as opposed to following this nonsensical theory? But I understand why. Because the people that you come home from work or wherever you are, you sit down, you get your favorite beverage, you put your feet up, and you turn on the TV and you sit there now and you digest your favorite programs. That could be sitcoms, that could be whatever it is, but at some point for many people it's the news. And you have your favorite newscasters, sometimes because they're funny, sometimes because they're attractive, but most of all because all of that turns into you believing what they're saying, you believing what they're projecting. And the way they present it makes it seem like there's truth to it. And so you had 70-something million people who voted on that ideology, and you have a show that reaches probably more than 50% of those people. And to hear people tell me face to face, the election was rigged, right? Just like those people who said to me, January 6th never happened, right? They filmed those, that was something they filmed separately and they broadcast it to make it seem like the Capitol was being stormed. This is what people actually believe. They believe that January 6th never happened. They believe that this election was rigged. And we have an ex-president who, knowing that he has this following from his celebrity days, etc., knowing that he has made sure that he's orchestrated his popularity, he's played to those who believe in racism and those who have lived with it and been in the closet with it for so long. He's played to those who are Republican ideology, who need something to hold on to. So, hey, they stole the election. And now all of a sudden, all the dominoes are crumbling. There's another guy, I forgot his first name, but I think his last name was Pillow, actually, Pillow, who also lost the lawsuit against Dominion. And there's a whole list of people who I believe are going to fall, whose dominoes are going to tumble. Because the fact is, it was a lie. You have to be, if you're going to be a gracious winner, you have to also learn in politics, as in anything else in life, to be a gracious loser. But what's troubling here is the fact that we, the people, elect leaders, as you say, by the people, for the people. And yet we completely stop thinking for ourselves and decide to follow one person, one ideology or another like zombies. never questioning it, creating rivalry and hatred with someone who has a different ideology, and then convincing ourselves that what's being poured down our throats is the truth. I mean, I've heard people cheer at a rally that ex-President Trump had when he talked about voter fraud. Matter of fact, he had a rally recently where he talked about his first day of his administration. He's going to go after all those prosecutors who he claims now were racist, who he claims are weaponizing the justice system. And the media is doing nothing to stand independently and to come out as a body, unified, whether it be CNN, C-SPAN, Fox News, ABC, NBC. You might have a different reporter that puts a spin in terms of how they report, but the truth is the truth. And this case with Dominion is just another part of the puzzle or part of the situation that shows you that the truth eventually comes out. And the fact of the matter is, people who use their celebrity and their power and their influence to twist things in their favor, and then knowing fully well that the people who follow them will follow them wherever they go, other human beings following another human being, never stopping to question what nonsense is this. They know that and they use it to their advantage. Now, that's okay if a candidate does that, right? Because, look, the game of politics is a dirty game. And the people who are running for these positions, you don't expect them to play fair. That's just the way it is. But we need the news media to be respectful, impartial, and we need them to make sure that there's no ideology behind their infrastructure. Fox News should be right down the middle. CNN should be right down the middle. Those reporters that come on the air and immediately attack one candidate because he represents one ideology and praises and supports another one, especially when behind the scenes they whisper into to each other, not recognizing that or not realizing that the audio recording is on, that they themselves don't believe the nonsense they're spewing, they should be terminated. We, the people who look for the best candidates, irrespective of ideology, need to hold them accountable. They're making their money, their $20 million contracts a year, because we sit down every night and give them an audience. And we digest this nonsense. We don't digest reality. We have become puppets and we've become trainable mammals. And so we turn around now and attack each other with racist remarks, with hatred, because someone has a different ideology. Do you realize that every time there's a system, a judge, something that goes against ex-President Trump, that whoever leads that bunch gets death threats? Why? Why would a human being who is not the president, who is just a citizen like everyone else, who gets up in the morning and puts his pants on one leg at a time like everybody else and goes to work and takes public transportation and pays their dues or however, why would you take it so personally to turn and attack someone because they're doing their job and what they feel is right? And I say this especially about our judicial system, and we're gonna have a separate episode and we're gonna talk about how the political system is trying to really overrun and influence the judicial system to the point where it's going to become ineffective. These cases that are currently being brought in the courts, many of them were decided on, the indictments were decided on based on a grand jury. The news media needs to impress this to all in the country. Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, whatever you are, the fact is that you get 23 people who sit in the jury, listen to all the evidence, and then vote in the end. If 12 or more of those people vote, that's the direction that the jury has decided. Now, I can understand, I do believe, and someone can send me a message and tell me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that the district attorney may or may not be bound by the juries. I'm not sure if they're actually bound by it. So I, I don't know, and I have to research this more. If a jury comes back and says indict, I believe a DA still has the ability not to indict and not to take the opinion of the grand jury. But generally speaking, the purpose of the grand jury is to indict or not indict, right? So 12 or more people decided that there's enough there that warrants a trial because they see something criminal. But the district attorney who now comes forward and says, "Well, I'm going to follow the grand jury's decision, their vote, and indict," is being attacked. Why? Many of these, and I'm not talking about New York alone. I'm talking about around our country. I'm talking about a judicial system that's under attack. If a grand jury makes a decision, at that point, if the district attorney follows the grand jury's decision, at that moment, the district attorney is just a messenger. Now, if we have, or we feel so strongly that someone didn't do something and they're going to be exonerated, then let the legal process play out. Isn't that how it happens to everybody else? Every other citizen who is not powerful and almighty? If you or I commit a crime tomorrow and we get arrested and we go in front of the grand jury for whatever the type of crime, let's just put it to be that magnitude of a crime, and the grand jury gets indicted, or the grand jury indicts us. Then we go to trial, right? We can still come out not guilty. If you and I commit a crime tomorrow and we get arrested and we get charged, right? We go to a jury trial. 12 men and women make a decision based on the evidence they hear. That's what you and I and every single citizen in the United States who is charged, accused, or has to be charged of a crime, every citizen, every single person faces. And it has nothing. It has nothing and should have nothing to do with your place in society, your power, your political prowess. It should simply have to do with right or wrong. And I'm saying all this because I'm tired of the media fighting each other. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen one show host someone from another show of opposing ideologies, and the argument goes on, and you can see clearly as you're looking at this, you kind of want to say, look at these idiots. They think that they know so much and they're so powerful, but they're sitting here not arguing intelligently about differences of opinion, but arguing based on political affiliation. Truth doesn't matter. They rationalize whatever they need to get their point across. How they sleep at night, I have no clue. But if we're going to depend on the news, and we have to, right? If you walked around each day going about your business and never heard any news, you would not know anything that's going on in the rest of the world, or even this country, for a matter of fact. If there's an earthquake in a part of this country, if there's a hurricane, if there's something great going on, if there's a basketball game, if there's a hockey game, whatever it is, the media, they're the link between us and our everyday lives and everything else that's going on with everyone else that they deem to be newsworthy across the country and the world. And that brings me to another point. Newsworthiness. Isn't it amazing how something being newsworthy, or someone in this case being newsworthy, is based on who they are? I mean, I remember situations where people argued where, for instance, there was an accident, a plane crash or a big accident, and someone on that in that vehicle was a celebrity, and that celebrity died along with several other people, and you had to make sure that you struggled hard to keep the other people's name and memory alive because it was all about the celebrity, like they are the only ones that died. No one paid attention to the families of the other people until the public started getting ugly about it, saying, there were other lives lost too. And this is the point I'm making. The news media has lost its ability to be impartial and independent. The truth is the truth. If we want to consider ourselves decent people, I don't care whether you're Republican or you're Democrat. If someone does something or says something that's degrading to disabled, degrading to women, degrading to people of color, to anyone for any reason, that person is not worthy. Because when you become a political figure, especially when you go to Washington, D.C., you are expected to represent every single person in the nation, not just the people who are affiliated with your ideology or your party. You might have won that position because your so called ideas of how to lead us forward are seem to be better or got more support. But when you win that position, you don't then get into a mode of, okay, I'm going to do this now only for the people who voted for me. That's not the job. But that's the Washington, D.C. that we're facing today. You look at the House of Representatives. You look at the leaders in the House of Representatives. You look at what's going on and voting in our nation. You look at our leaders. You honestly believe they care about us? We have individual citizens getting locked up and losing their lives over their anger and hatred because they affiliate themselves with one candidate or another. Meanwhile, the candidates don't give 2 cents about you. And the media that's in the middle, that has the biggest audience, that even allows these celebrities and these politicians a voice. Because remember, what happens? Every time any politician, any celebrity, anyone who wants to speak to the nation exercises that right, how do they do that? They call a press conference, right? They need to be in front of a camera, in front of a mic, and they need to have that voice broadcast to the nation. That's the media's responsibility. The media has a responsibility to say, we're not going to air this nonsense. You cannot come on here and spew this hatred and racism and vile nonsense, and I'm going to sit here and support and say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. When you know fully well that it is not only wrong, it is irresponsible, and it is dangerous. You know, we get formed into who we are, conditioned into who we are as we get older each year of our lives. But we're not born with that prejudice. It's taught to us. We have been conditioned by it because of our environment. You know, just today I was driving and I heard there was something going on at the White House, and President Biden was talking to young people. I don't know how old they were. They must have been, I don't know the exact ages, but what he was saying to them, the kids today who are 21 years and old and younger, they are the best hope for our future. And I get it. He's right. Because what he went on to say is those Generation Zs are the ones who have conviction, are the ones who hate prejudice and racism, and are the ones who will lead us forward in a most, what I want to say, compatible way. Because Generation Z is marrying into racists. They don't care about race, creed, or color. They don't look at that as a reason why they can or cannot marry, why they can or cannot associate, why they can or cannot vote for. They are our best hope as a future. Because we and those before us still have the remnants ingrained in who we are from the racism and prejudice that existed for so many hundreds of years and is still to this day hiding out in between us in huge numbers. We need to recognize each other as human beings. We need to recognize how powerful the truth is. And we need to demand a media that supports that truth. This news media, these stations, Fox and CNN and ABC and NBC, they all get their success from viewership. Think about it. When a show comes on TV and you might like it, and then you come back and you say, what happened to my show? You're scrolling through the TV and it's no longer there, and they say it got canceled. Why did they get canceled? Because it did not get enough ratings, enough viewership. That's the power that we have as people, as one people, to look at our journalists across the board and those we know, whether they're from our ideology or across the aisle, If you know for a fact deep down in your conscience that what they're saying is a bunch of crap, then stop supporting them. Make their numbers drop so low that they're no longer a viable option for the news media, for that station, for that entity. Now, I don't want to go off and end this podcast without also talking about Don Lemon, right? Because he got canned too. But he got canned for a different reason. He got canned because of a comment he made about Nikki Haley and her age. And I've got to tell you, I understand why he was canned too. You know, we have, just as racism or anything else, people walk around with their own feelings deep inside. But again, you have a social responsibility when you're a media personnel, a journalist, to be impartial, to be independent. But at the same time, you have to be respectful. You do not say things that are derogatory about a race, creed, color, gender as someone who holds that responsibility. And I'm hoping that these two gentlemen who got canned this week are not the end of the house cleaning, but just the beginning. Because we have a lot more people that need to go. We have a lot more people that influence others, and because they were born into prejudice or racism, feel empowered by what these nonsensical media personnel are saying. And the media personnel know it. And what are they doing? At the end of the day, what are they doing? They're getting you to believe their garbage in millions of numbers of viewership, and that translates to what? Their pockets. They're making money off of your backs by ingraining lies to either support your existing prejudice or to bring you over to their side because you believe that if you have to choose a side, and you don't have to, but many of us feel that we have to choose a side. And you do, and then you must support it. To me, honestly, you have Democrats, you have Republicans, and I wish the largest party in the country were people who are totally independent. Maybe that would change. Not only our political system or what we endure, but also the way the media reports the facts and the truth as the truth and nothing but the truth. So next time you turn on the TV and you listen to your favorite reporter, forget about what you see on the screen. Close your eyes maybe and listen to what they're saying. Not the ones who are reading the news as it happened. Today there was someone hit by a cycle. There was someone, the rain fell. No. The ones who are giving editorials, the ones who are giving perspectives, listen to them carefully. And the minute you see that there's impartiality, or lack of impartiality, I should say, the minute you see there's prejudice, the minute you see that they're twisting something, the minute you question what they're saying, because it's beyond the realm of what you know to be reality, strike them off your list. Let's start holding media responsible, not for what they say good about President Biden, not for what they say good about ex-President Trump, not for what they say good about the House of Representatives or the Senate, but what they say that is as close as possible as we can tell to the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Before I end this episode, I guess it's on a little bit more somber note, but I also want to, at the same time, celebrate or say something positive about Harry Belafonte. This week we lost a giant, an activist, someone who put his money and his actions where his mind and his mouth is, someone who believed in fighting for fairness, and someone who also entertained and brought joy to our lives. For his good actions, he was blessed with 96 years, a number that most of us will never see. And to me, that gives me hope that truth and honesty and believing in what's righteous and being truthful to yourself gets rewarded. And he has been honored and he was blessed with a long and amazing life. So may he rest in peace. And also, before I go off the air, I got news a little early today that Jerry Springer also passed away today. Well, he passed away today. Jerry Springer was a character. We all can remember him from, the Jerry Springer show, Jerry, Jerry. And that was all entertainment, right? Because it was a bunch of nonsense, but we loved to watch it because it was funny as anything else. The point is, whether you liked it or you hated it, it managed to bring something in our lives that gave us a moment of laughter, a moment of even giggling at nonsense in a life that has so many things and challenges that make us serious so much of the time. As time goes by and we get older, there are a lot of giants that are passing on and will pass on. And I think it is so important to make sure we acknowledge their contribution to society, because as life goes on, the giants we lose, we shall never see the likes of them again. I wish you a great weekend and a great week ahead. And I thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation with you and for your support of the 247 Real Talk podcast. I want to remind you to hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to build an audience to the point where I can get bigger in terms of getting high-profile guests on here, people who can speak the truth with you and to you, and people who will engage you in an intellectual and honest manner. I will not entertain people who are ridiculous. I will entertain people who have a different perspective, and I will entertain people who are willing to acknowledge when they're right and when they're wrong, because I am too. Again, it's been a pleasure to be here with you. Until we talk again, until we have another interesting topic to debate, please take the time to take care of yourselves and make sure that you take care of others.